Okay, we're here today at the pipe freezing facility at COB Industries in Melbourne, Florida. We're going to walk through how to set up a pipe freeze or freeze seal using one of the new Accu-Freeze freeze jackets, liquid nitrogen freeze jackets, which you see here. I'm just going to walk you through the setup. We'll cover how to run your nitrogen tank and how to prep the pipe and the jacket, and we'll kind of walk through the whole process. So today we're using a 4-inch jacket because we're freezing a 4-inch pipe. So the first step is going to be to make sure that the jacket surfaces, the sealing surfaces, are nice and smooth and can accept the new gasketing material for each freeze. We use 1-inch Armorflex gasketing material. It actually comes in a 2-inch roll, but as you see, we'll cut it down the middle and basically make 1-inch strips. This is very inexpensive gasketing material, but very effective. It'll give you a good seal and keep the liquid nitrogen trapped on the pipe wall. It's very, as I say, it's very inexpensive. So it's a one-time use. You have to take it off after each freeze, and then you just have to make sure that the jacket surfaces are cleaned off. We usually scrape off the old gasketing material and then clean the jackets with acetone to get them nice and smooth and clean so that they're ready for the next freeze. So basically to set the jacket up, we just take the gasketing tape, and what we're going to do is make sure that the sealing surfaces are covered on these jackets, and we usually just eyeball it. I'll take the tape, run it along the jacket surface, and eyeball the lengths, and then we cut them, and we'll make sure we get all surfaces on the jacket, and then next we'll do the pipe so that we've got a good seal. Okay, so we've got our gasketing tape on the ends of the jacket here. Now we're just gonna go ahead and cut the pieces for the remaining surfaces. So again, we buy the tape in a 2-inch thickness, and then all we got to do is cut it down the middle to give us our 1-inch strips that we use on these jackets. So once you cut your strips down, just peel off the backing and stick the tape onto the jacket. It's okay if you get a little bit of overlap here at the edges, because it will compress and give us a good seal anyway. Okay, so now you can see we've got our gasketing tape on all the surfaces, on all the sealing surfaces of both halves of the jacket. So once we've got the jackets prepped, you want to make sure that your pipe wall also is smooth and clean, clear of debris. We're going to be freezing this section of the pipe right here. So what I'm going to do is just lay the top half of the jacket onto the pipe, and then we're going to mark the pipe so that we know where the gasketing material goes on the pipe, because you want the gasketing material on the jacket and on the pipe itself. So I'm just marking the pipe wall here on both sides of the jacket. Okay, so once you've marked your pipe for where the jacket's going to go, you then just take your gasketing material, go on the insides of your markings all the way around the pipe. We'll do that on both sides. Again, a little bit of overlap is not going to be an issue because it will compress. So once we've got our jacket and our pipe prepped with our gasketing tape, now we can position our jacket on our freeze jacket onto the pipe and bolt it together. All right, so we're just finishing tightening the two halves of the jacket together, the freeze jacket. And you just want to get it nice and hand tight. Make sure that all the bolts are secure. Okay, so today we're using one of the Accu-Freeze liquid nitrogen freeze jackets, which we just went through the preparation. We've got that secured to the pipe wall now. Today we are using the Accu-Freeze 1000 kit, which basically consists of your thermocouple wires, fittings, a lot of your assorted hardware that you'll need for the freezes, and then the key components of the system, which represent the patented technology that comes along with Accu-Freeze. You've got our AF3000 controller. This is our digital controller. This will allow us to program what temperature we want to take the pipe wall to and monitor the temperature of the pipe wall, and it will also control this solenoid valve, which is part of a header assembly that will attach directly to the liquid nitrogen tank. So this digital controller basically will be running this solenoid valve, so it automates the liquid nitrogen injections. So you don't have to stand there and manually inject the nitrogen throughout the freeze process. This automates the process, and it also cuts down a lot on your liquid nitrogen consumption, because it's only going to inject as much liquid nitrogen as we need to accomplish the freeze and to maintain the set point temperature that we've programmed that we want to take that pipe wall to. We're also going to be using the AF4010 cryogenic hose. This comes with the AF1000 Accu-Freeze kit. It's a stainless steel cryogenic hose that's been insulated with the ArmorFlex gasket material, insulation material, and then covered with this orange sheet. So it's ready to go. You're going to want to make sure that you put Teflon tape on your threaded connections. We're also going to be utilizing the AF8000 two-channel handheld temperature monitor. So we'll be taking temperature readings with this unit as well, and monitoring the temperature on the sides of the freeze jacket. So we'll have a thermocouple on this side of the jacket, one on this side of the jacket, and then our control thermocouple will actually attach to our exhaust from the freeze jacket. When you go to set up your freeze, it's important that you do this in the following steps and in this order. First thing we're going to do is attach our cryogenic hose to the freeze jacket itself. So that will be threaded into the liquid nitrogen intake that's built into the jacket. Once we've connected the hose, we will then connect the other side of the hose to our solenoid valve header assembly. And then finally, we will attach the header assembly to the liquid connection on the nitrogen tank. It's important that you go in that order: hose to the jacket, hose to the header assembly, and then the header assembly to the tank, because this is the only part of the system that actually has a swivel. So it's important to go in that order, which will make things go a lot more smoothly. We'll start off by just getting the hose threaded into the fitting on the jacket. Once we get it in there by hand, we'll put a wrench on there and tighten it down. Okay, so we've got our hose securely attached to our freeze jacket now. We'll take the other end and we'll now thread the solenoid valve header assembly onto the hose. Okay, so now we have our cryogenic hose attached to the jacket. We've got it attached to the solenoid valve header assembly, and we're going to attach to the liquid connection on the liquid nitrogen tank. It's important when we're attaching the solenoid valve header assembly to the tank that you keep the solenoid valve in the upright position. So you don't want this to be facing down or sideways. You want this in the upright position. Okay? So once you've got it on there by hand, then just go ahead and use the wrench to tighten it down. Okay. Now that we've got all of our equipment set up, the next thing we're going to do is attach all of our thermocouple wires so that we can get our temperature readings. Again, we're going to put one thermocouple on each side of the freeze jacket on the pipe wall itself, and then we're going to attach one thermocouple to the exhaust port on the freeze jacket. All right, when you're attaching the thermocouple wires to the pipe wall, you always want to be about a ½ inch, approximately a ½ inch away from the edge of the freeze jacket. That's where we want that thermocouple wire to rest. We're going to use just a little piece of the ArmorFlex gasket material or tape to secure the thermocouple, and then we're going to use some additional tape just to keep it on there and keep it secure, because we don't want that to come loose during the freeze process. Okay, so once you've got your thermocouple wires securely fastened to the pipe wall on either side of the freeze jacket, we're now going to attach our control thermocouple. And the way we do that is we're going to give the end of it a little bit of a bend like a fish hook, and then we're going to secure that to the side wall of the exhaust so that the thermocouple is actually sitting down inside the exhaust, but it is not touching the pipe, the actual wall. Now that our thermocouple wires are attached, we're going to plug them in. The two thermocouples that are attached to the pipe wall are going to plug into our handheld 2-channel temperature monitor. So that'll give us temperature readings on either side of the freeze jacket. And these just plug into the T1 and T2 connectors on the digital controller. Once the thermocouples are plugged in, we can power the unit on. And you'll see our starting temperature on both thermocouples is right at 90 degrees, 90.5 degrees. Next, we're going to attach the control thermocouple, which is the one that's attached to our exhaust on the freeze jacket. We're going to plug that into the lead that comes off of the AF3000 controller. Okay, so once our thermocouples are all attached, we've got them plugged into the controller, to the 2-channel temperature monitor. We can now go ahead and hook our digital controller up to power. First, I'm going to go ahead and connect the controller to the solenoid valve because they are tied together. And then I'll go ahead and plug into our power source. Okay, so now that we've powered up our digital controller, you can see the display on the screen. The top number in red is the actual temperature reading from the control thermocouple at the exhaust, because we don't have anything running yet. The number in green, which is right now set at -40 or -40, is the actual set point, and that is what allows us to control the pipe wall temperature. If we turn the system on right now, the solenoid valve will remain open and nitrogen will flow until we get down near the -40 range, at which point it will automatically cycle on and off to maintain that temperature. If we want it to go colder, we will press the down arrow to lower the temperature. If we wanted to raise it, we would use the up arrow to raise the temperature. At this point, our system is set up and ready to go. So the next thing we'll do is go ahead and open the manual valve on the nitrogen tank. We'll check for leaks, make sure that everything's nice and tight, and then we'll be off and running. When using liquid nitrogen, obviously you are dealing with cryogenic temperatures. It's also heavier than air, so you need to make sure that you have proper ventilation. You may hear the fan running in the background. We've got good air circulation in here, plenty of ventilation, so that's not a concern. But you do also want to use your standard PPE equipment. So we're using gloves and eye protection, obviously closed-toe shoes, and that sort of thing applies as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open the valve on the tank now to initiate the flow of liquid nitrogen. Okay, at this point, we've got the system set up and running. We've got the liquid nitrogen going into the jacket. You can see that it's coming in liquid form and it's exhausting in gas form. you'll see that the system is now cycling, so you'll see the exhaust kick on and off. So it's just injecting enough liquid nitrogen right now to maintain the temperature that we've programmed the system for. If we left it alone at this point, it would just continue to cycle and maintain a temperature coming off of this thermocouple wire at the exhaust. We're going to go ahead and dial it down now to take it colder. So now I've got the controller set at minus 141 degrees. So it's going to basically cycle on and off with that temperature at the exhaust. You don't want to go too cold because then you'll end up shooting liquid out of the exhaust, which we don't want. You get the greatest heat transfer, the greatest energy, where the liquid is flashing over to a gas inside the jacket. That's putting as much cold energy on the pipe as is possible. And at this point, the Accu-Freeze system basically takes over. You can now just sit back, monitor your temperatures, keep an eye on things, but other than that, everything else now is running as it should. We have no leaks, everything's tight, and the system is running as designed. Okay, at this point you can see we've got good frost bands, real solid frost bands on both sides of the freeze jacket. So you can tell that we've established an ice plug in there. Our temperature readings are both showing below freezing on either side of the freeze jacket. So we've definitely got a good solid freeze seal in here. At this point, that concludes our Accu-Freeze freeze seal demonstration. Thank you.